Great.
And I will. Okay.
All right, welcome to the COC or the King County COC Continuum Care Board meeting. Oh, that's a good one. That was a good start, guys. Let's try it again. Welcome to the Washington 500 Seattle King County Continuum of Care public meeting. I should call this meeting to order. While we have people trickling in, we're gonna go ahead and start with Maya, if she could do the land acknowledgement for us.
I'm going to pull that up really quick.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about not having that on screen right now. Also, do you have the theory of change ready to go? Or do you want to?
Sorry, I'm trying to find it really quick.
Oh, you're fine. Take your time. Take your time. I just was gonna have Dr. Patricia do the theory of change and we can come back to the land acknowledgement. Take your time.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patricia. I am a COC board member. Our theory of change reads, if we create a homeless response system that centers the voices of people with lived experience of homelessness, then we can focus on responding to needs and eliminating inequities to end homelessness.
Thank you, Patricia. Amaya, do you want to do the land acknowledgement? It's in the chat, I believe. Am I muted?
Hello?
Oh,
Can you
hear
hear me?
Yep, now we can.
I'm so sorry. I was having connectivity issues. So our land acknowledgement is the King County Continuum of Care Board acknowledges that we work on the unceded traditional lands of the Coast Salish people, especially the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, the original stewards of the land, past and present. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. This acknowledgement only becomes meaningful when combined with accountable relationships and informed actions, and is the first step in honoring the land we today sit on and their people.
Great. Thank you so much, Amaya. Thank you, Dr. Patricia. Now we're going to move into the roll call. So handing it over to Kelsey.
Dr. Sam,
Present.
Tamara Bauman,
Here.
Jaja Floyd,
Here.
Bella Irons,
Here.
Maya Lenore,
Present.
Elizabeth Mofan,
Present.
Dorsa Plants,
Present.
Ruby Tuesday Romero,
Here.
Martha Sassarossi,
Present.
Christina Sawicki. And I am working with Christina, so I will update when she joins us. Victor Liu
Here.
and Amy Thomas. We have 5, 7, 9, 10 members present, 2 absent at this moment. And we have quorum.
Great. Thank you, Kelsey. Appreciate that. Thanks everyone for being here today. We do have a longer meeting than usual. We're going to be going till 4:30 to accommodate for the lack of the special meeting that we did not have, that we had to cancel. And so just giving everybody a heads up on that. And I believe this would be the time where we'd move into entertain a motion on the board meeting minutes from May.
I move that we accept the minutes from May.
I second that. Amaya Lenore.
Thanks, Amaya. Appreciate that. So we got Jaja Floyd, who made the motion and seconded by Amaya Lenore. And if we do just a quick voice vote.
Yep.
Approve.
Thanks, you're a little ahead of us right there. Whoa.
All those in favor of approving the May minutes, please come off mute and say approve or yay.
Approve.
Yay.
Approve.
All right, those who do not vote to approve them, please come off mute and say nay. Not hearing any, the yeas have it, the meeting minutes are approved.
Is there any abstentions?
Oh, abstentions, thank you. Yep.
Not hearing. Okay. Cool, thank you. So the motion is approved. We've accepted the board meeting minutes from May. And now we shall move into open public comment portion. Is there anyone here today that wanted to make public comment? Did we have any feedback from the email, written comments? Okay. Please raise your hand and we can call on you in the order it was received. All right, I see one attendee with their hand up. Mark Garrett. Should be allowed to talk.
Unmute.
There you are.
Hold on. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. I can't get my camera to work. Anyway, the one comment I have, someone encouraged us to make comments about this upcoming COC convening, and I would like to see some discussion about outreach. Like the COC funds HMIS, and my understanding is that there's 5,000 or 6,000 people in shelter, and there's 9,000 or 10,000 unsheltered homeless people in King County, and nobody knows how many of those people are in the HMIS database because we don't have any outreach program, and I think that's a problem. We need to get a handle on the unsheltered homeless community and like get them into HMIS so that they're visible to the services. And that's my comment.
Thank you for that, Mark. We really appreciate that great feedback. Looking forward to seeing you at the convening. Is there anybody else that would like to make public comment? So,
Can I say something?
these types of public
No.
comments, so we'll wait till we close
Alright.
it and then we can, is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect.
All righty.
Protocol.
So not hearing anyone else, there's no other ones with their hands up in the attendee section. So I'm gonna ask a third time, if anybody else that wants to make public comment? Not hearing any. This public comment period is closed. Thank you. As always, you can always put questions in the Q&A and we will answer them in real time or at a later time. And now let's go to the board and committee updates. Why not? Sounds like fun. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry, Jaja.
That's okay.
Yeah, you had it.
I just wanted to say that I ditto what Mark said
Mhm.
about the unsheltered
Mhm.
that need to be in the HMIS,
Mhm.
so they're visible, so we can get them housed.
Exactly.
Right? I just wanted to second that, because that's really important,
I'll
that we
third
do
it.
outreach, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's gonna be a good conversation to have for
Yeah.
sure.
Definitely.
Is there any other?
Wait,
Oh, would just love to add that at the convening, there will be a presentation on the 24 unsheltered pit count. So that would be a wonderful time to raise some of those questions with our research and data team at KCRPJ. So just want to elevate that as an opportunity to kind of plug where that may be a good opportunity to hold some of those questions.
Yeah, we're gonna have some of the data people there, so. Awesome, yes, good. Now we're gonna move into the committee updates, and I believe we have convening. Right, is that, or, dang it, I had the agenda up. Victor, I know that you're gonna give us an update on the charter review, right? And the convening.
Yeah, absolutely. I can go ahead and do it now. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Victor Lu. For this work context, I use he, him, his pronouns, also a COC board member, and happy Pride Month. With the convening meeting updates, COC board members Elizabeth, Christina, and myself are serving on this the convening planning committee. The upcoming convening is scheduled for June 17th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at North Seattle College. And in line with our commitment to accessibility, we are having a hybrid meeting format to better accommodate participants and needs. And if you haven't RSVP yet for the meeting, please RSVP by June 9, 2024. The in-person attendance is limited to 100 participants. Also, later on, we are also having an ask for COC board members who intend to attend in person to assist to facilitate 2 self-guided breakout sessions. And the virtual breakout session will be facilitated by KCRHA staff. So that's the convening updates. I'm going to take a pause here to people have any questions before I do the charter revision work group updates. Okay, it looks like there's no question. So the charter revision.
Sorry. One question really quickly. I apologize. We weren't getting off mute as quickly as possible. For the facilitation of the work groups, do you want us to, or the breakout rooms, do you want us to just tell you now, later, or like through email or a day of?
I think by June 9, when the deadline to RSVP is June 9, so by then we will know exactly which board members are attending in person. So I believe I will coordinate with probably Catherine or Kelsey to reach out to those board members that are attending in person. So more information to come on that.
Okay. We'll likely get an email out to confirm by early next week.
Awesome. Cool. And Elizabeth, I saw your hand pop up. Did you have a question for Victor?
Same question.
Great. Well, great minds think alike, they say.
Quick question,
Okay, go ahead.
Dr. Sam, can you state the date of the convening again, please, Victor, and the time?
Absolutely. So it's June 17 from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And the in-person meeting is at North Seattle College. And if there is a link that you need to RSVP for the events by June 9. So we have count of who are attending in person and who are attending virtually.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. And that is a Tuesday for the record. That is Tuesday, right? Yeah, okay. Victor, I'm gonna hand it back over to you for the rest of your update.
Sounds great. Thank you. So the charter revision work group, as you know, that I serve as a liaison for the work group. So the COC charter revision work group, we held our first in-person kickoff meeting on March 28th, 2025. And the regular meetings are held Monday with optional working meetings in between. And the goal is to complete the charter revision by September 2025. And then so we can present it to the COC board and the larger membership to meet the timeline. The most recent meeting took place on May 30th, with the next optional working meeting scheduled for June 6th, which is this Friday. And the revised charter, as I noted, will be presented to the COC board in October 2025, and then at the November 2025 convening meetings where votes will be tallied.
Great.
You're welcome. Any questions?
No, I think you're off the hook. Awesome. Thank you, Victor. We really appreciate those good updates. I believe we had one more update. Was the PIT? Maybe was that what it was?
Oh, yep, I can do a little bit of an update. So the point in time count work group is actively recruiting folks. We put that out to the COC membership and the board a week and a half ago. So
It's still
actively, yes,
Okay.
it will be open. I believe per our research and data group, they wanted that to be open until June 20th. So we are actively working to get folks to join the PIT planning work group. The aim is to support identifying hubs and kind of outreach strategies. So really welcome folks with an interest to join that. I think a couple of board members have already raised hands in support through putting in applications. So please continue to put that in through the 20th.
Yeah, cool. Exciting. We also have, I think there's a hand up, Dorsal.
It's not a question. I just wanted to put out a reminder for both the board and members of the public that the written committee and work group reports will be going out with the minutes afterwards. We apologize for the delay, but we will get those out to the public and the rest of the board.
Yes, and that's a great thing to raise, Dorsal. So this new kind of structure, what we're doing is we're doing verbal for some of the work groups, and then that way we're able to move through our agenda a little bit quicker. And yeah, we'll have written updates going out to the board otherwise in public. Thanks for that. Okay, cool. Next section, is there another, there's not a committee update, another one? Okay. The NOFO work group is looking for people though.
Yep,
too.
NOFO work group is also actively recruiting. That is also still open. So if anyone is interested in the NOFO work group, yeah, please submit that as well.
Okay. Oh, there's this app smart sheet. Thank you for that, Victor.
That's for the convening RSVP.
Okay.
Kelsey? Oh, sorry, I just had a quick question. When's the cutoff for the NOFO work group that for applying?
Oh, that one is not off the top of my brain. I think it went out last week and that one was 2 weeks, but probably just going to parallel it with the pit count. So there's not confusion. So maintain that June 20th. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and it looks like Christina's in the call now. Awesome. So let the record show Christina's here. Okay. Now the good stuff. I believe it's your section. So we're gonna get
the federal court case.
the federal update if you got a second.
Yeah, so what is going on in the court case right now is we got last night a new order from the federal judge. The order goes further than the previous one. The first thing that it does is it clarifies that we don't have to agree to the terms and conditions that are objectionable from our standpoint. And so that we can submit those and that HUD cannot withhold any funding. It is also going a little bit further and prohibiting HUD from withholding any funds to agencies that are participating in the litigation, which includes King County themselves and KCRHA. And it's asked for a report within 2 days, so yesterday essentially. So you should get one for the week, just describing how HUD is going to comply with the order. Concerned that HUD would withhold funding from us, and we're hoping that this court will be enough of a nudge to get them to be able to release the funding. We do expect an appeal, so this is definitely not the end of the story. So I think we'll start going up to the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals and potentially US Supreme Court at that point. We'll see what happens there. So far, good news. One thing I'll also note is that the order also pertains to any members of the Continuum. So that would include any of the nonprofits who are participating, or who are not participating in the lawsuit, but do receive direct grants.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions, or was that? Did you have any questions, Dorsal?
Thank you for the update. Clarification on the, so when you say memberships involved, is it only the organization, since we do allow individuals to be members?
It's really anybody who has a contract with HUD. So like who would be concerned about the specific terms and conditions.
Thank you.
And I had a quick question. When you say that it's probably going to go to appeal, I know a little bit about the court system and how that works. So does that mean that we'd still be potentially not receiving funds until after the whole thing is settled? Or is it maybe they'll release it? Is there an idea on that?
Well, so it's a little bit strange because what the court order does is it prohibits HUD from withholding funds. And that, is HUD withholding funds? That's kind of the question there. I think there's a way to read it. They are. They may tell a judge they're not. They're just processing the funds, so we don't know. But what'll happen on appeal is the federal government is going to ask the appellate court to stay the order that was issued by the federal judge at the district court that we got last night.
The injunction.
And that would mean that all the terms and conditions are just stayed. Which is funny because we have a stay of the federal government, they're gonna stay the stay. So it's gonna be very complicated, but essentially they're gonna try to act with some intervention so that they can continue to do what they wanna do. We still have time as it is, but we're also looking at other ways to make sure that we continue funding for all the providers as well.
Yeah.
If that becomes necessary, that does not release the funding.
Okay, so that is still something at the forefront of our minds. That's good. Well, is there any other questions for Edmund?
I'm noting Amy Thomas has joined us, so I will also note Amy Thomas is present.
Great, thank you. Hi, Amy. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, thank you for that update. That's good to hear that we're making some movement on that. It's a fun fight, I'm sure. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for being here today. And I think the next section is break time if we need it.
We're a little ahead.
Yeah.
Schedule, so really up to y'all.
Do we want to keep powering through the agenda and maybe take a break closer to 3 before we have a discussion, or any preference?
I was just concerned about the person who.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
How are they doing?
Yeah.
Cause I'm fine, but how are they doing?
Yeah. How's our chart captioner doing?
There you go. Sorry, Kat.
Okay, well, I'm not hearing any complaints about moving on. Should we move into the stipend conversation, or?
We need to make, I motion to modify the agenda to hold the stipend discussion prior to the break.
And I second that motion, Dorsal.
We will do a voice vote. All in favor of accepting the motion to continue forward and move the break later, please come off mute and say aye.
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 Any opposed, please come off mute and say no. All right, any abstentions? All righty, we are good to move forward.
Well, the yays have it.
The yays have it.
So this next conversation, as I'm handing it over to Dorsal to help facilitate this conversation about the stipend process, and Kelsey too, but Dorsal, you want to introduce it?
Yeah, thank you. For the record, Dorsal Clancy has pronouns, and happy Pride Month.
Sorry.
I want to first take a moment to thank Kelsey. There's been a lot of questions that have come up even before I was co-chair around this stipend conversation. We just reached a point where, as Ruby and I have expressed, over again, we like transparency. And so we thought it best to just go ahead and have this conversation here now, and get some feedback from you all. And Kelsey was so gracious to kind of last minute kind of throw some things up in the wind and help us get to a place where we could have this conversation. And so I was stalling for time, but
We'll see the slides.
I'm seeing membership recruitment.
Oh,
Almost
because
there.
I'm sharing. Okay, hold on. Pardon me. I have too many screens. So give me one moment as I aim to get the correct one. Here we go. All right. Now are you seeing the stipend slides?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Next slide, please. So what is the stipend? Here you can see kind of in a little bit of legalese from KCRHA's perspective, but ultimately it is a way to offset the cost, to recognize that you all are experts, but you're sacrificing time with your families, wear and tear on your car, wear and tear on your phones, wear and tear on your computer systems, to participate in your community. And it's a way basically to appreciate and acknowledge that cost. But because it is a stipend and because it falls into such an interesting area, and because it's also groundbreaking, that's another piece I think we need to call out too. Like, this is not something even 10, 20 years ago that was a winnable policy decision. And there's been progress on it, but that means that there's still kind of room to learn and room to grow, both here at KCRHA, but for all stipend processes for lived and living experience. Next slide, please. So one of the things to keep in mind about the stipend process is because it is tied to labor, it is bound by not just the KCRHA internal policy, but it's bound by federal and state labor laws. And so today we want to talk a little bit, to get feedback as they're looking at the system internally at KCRHA. But I also want to ground set that there are some limitations to this. And it's kind of in one of those weird areas because what we're trying to do is good and benefit our community. But the root of these labor laws are actually to prevent bad actors from taking advantage of people. And so it can be really frustrating to talk about the fact that there are limitations in the law to how much a stipend can be and what a stipend can compensate, because at the end of the day, we're not the bad actors that the law is trying to protect us from. And in some ways, that kind of does make it get in our way. And we could do better things maybe, but because the law has to apply and should apply equitably across everyone in the United States, you have to write it in such a way that it does kind of factor in. Next slide, please. So I could have read the direct US code, but there was a lawyer here who would have been much better at doing that than me. So I broke it down into plain, good old, simple dorsal talk here. So, can volunteers receive a stipend? Yes, but it needs to be a nominal amount. Well, nominal is a weird legal word. What does it mean? Small, thank you. Really, what it is the law is trying to prevent somebody from skipping creating jobs by getting volunteers, when in fact there should be a true livable wage job with benefits doing that work. And so generally speaking, the stipend is going to be 20% less of what a paid employee is going to get paid. Give or take. And you'll see on here that generally speaking, it says $500 in a year. Most of you, as I understand it, potentially are already getting over $500 a year. And that's why KCRHA is trying so hard to create an internal process that's very clear and very documented, because it creates a legal protection for the stipend process. Because when it comes to budget cuts, this is one of those policies. It's new, and newer policy is easier to say, well, we tried it for a good 5 years. We'll come back to it in 20 years when we have more money. And so that's part of what's at the root here. Are there any questions about kind of this legal piece before we dive into KCRHA policy? Elizabeth?
So do we have to give back anything over 500 or no?
To me, yeah.
That is a wonderful, great question. No, there are no concerns, but we're getting ready to kind of do some listening sessions on what should be eligible expenses. And I can think of at least one that I think should be on that list, but we have to balance what's on that list with recognizing that we could put 1 million approvable tasks on there, but there is a limit to just how many hours per month you could potentially put on a stipend a reimbursement.
I
Next
think,
slide.
oh,
Oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
I was just gonna add, I think something that you shared with me, Dorsal, that make a lot more sense to me about the $500 number is just we have to keep better tabs of what's going on post $500 or greater than $500. So, right, is that kind of what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah. If you've ever filed your taxes, you know, like with charitable, like there are certain amounts where like the tax person doesn't care as much, but then you go over that amount suddenly, like where's every receipt you've had? And that this is an example of that. If the stipends were under $500, it'd probably be a little bit more loosey goosey. But given the conversations at the federal level and given the valuable work that you're doing, it makes sense to just have that diligent protection in place. Next slide.
Dorsal, do you want me to talk about this one?
Yes, that would be awesome.
Great. So just wanted to share, this is the 2025 KCRHA stipend budget. So each year, KCRHA has to plan and prepare our budget and what we are hoping to pay for. So for this calendar year, and I'm saying calendar year because fortunately, our COC planning grant is on a January to December calendar year, so it makes it a little easier. We have already kind of earmarked funding that we want to go toward stipend supports. So we have earmarked funding in our COC planning grant and in KCRHA kind of just general administrative dollars that we receive. And our admin is pretty low for a government entity. It's about 6% of our other costs is our admin dollars. So we have to plan ahead of time what we want to earmark to go towards stipends to support folks with lived experience of homelessness to participate in various activities that we are holding or sponsoring. So this year, we have earmarked money to go towards stipends. And the projects or activities that we have earmarked is for COC board participation, YAB participation, COC committees and work groups, specifically for folks who are not board or YAB members who have lived experience to join, folks to support NOFO rating, and then from our admin pool, we have earmarked stipends for RFP rating. In 2026, we will add stipend requests for pit count because we like to be able to offer something for the pit count, whether that is the same kind of stipend process or done in a different way. It varies because the pit count is usually a larger pool of people.
Yeah.
Right.
But these are the things that have been kind of presented and approved because we have the financial capacity to do so. And then the next slide I want to share is just how we kind of break that down by those specific projects. So in order to have stipends approved, we have to submit a request for that project and there has to be funding available.
Okay.
This is something that we also can't do very well retroactively because we need to make sure there's funds available for that. So just want to show of this, 90% of funds are the planning grant, and I want to say it's about $180,000 for the full year. 35% of that is set aside for COC board members doing work. 35% is set aside for YAB members doing work. 20% is for committee and work group non-board members, and then 10% of that budget request is focused on raters for RFP. And we kind of review the budget versus actuals to make sure there's balance, and just having to keep track of that throughout the year and where we are. So I just want to share that this is the 2025, these are the things that we have approved and budgeted for.
Thank you, Kelsey. Christina has a comment and a question. And I think the question's on the budget piece.
Great. I am pulling up those Q&As. So I can clarify, anything regarding taxes is on the recipient. So in the stipend agreement, folks are identified as contractors. So KCRHA does not hold tax liability on that. As an independent contractor or volunteer receiving a stipend, it's really up to those receiving stipend to do that management. And that's laid out in the stipend agreement, as that would be the individual's responsibility. And there may be some things related to this that I just am not the expert in. So any questions that I don't know, I will get back to you on.
Was Christina's question answered?
I think so.
I didn't see it in the.
Yeah.
The chat.
It was,
Oh, that's her. Amore. Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
And Christina, if you have another question, you should be able to come off of mute. I believe I've updated your setting to do that.
So that means we would have to file taxes on them.
Yes.
Just for clarification, right?
You have to file taxes for anything over $599.
Yep.
Then the IRS will hit you.
They can
At
come
$600, it has to be reported to the IRS.
10-4.
Yes, know that. I know that. I do tax.
Okay. Oh, I concur with Kelsey, the regulations and individuals receive over 600 annually, will receive a 1099. Yeah, that's what it is. Yes.
Amy,
I'd also like to point out for anyone who may get Social Security benefits, that it can also affect your Social Security, and they can also take away that funding if you get paid a certain amount. So I recommend that you talk to your local Social Security authority to make sure that that doesn't affect your income, because anything over a certain dollar amount, either per month or per year, there are certain stipulations. Thank you.
Yeah, can I just add that anything that you're doing in the government, as far as housing, if you're on housing, Seattle, King County, or anywhere else, then that affects anything that you are doing with the government.
Yep.
So when Kelsey said you need to be responsible for your taxes, you also need to be responsible for your income and report to the agencies that you're connected to.
Yep. Just another
Dr.
form of transparency.
Yeah.
Dr. Sam.
Thank you, Dorso. This is Dr. Sam, COC board member. Thank you, Dorso, for sharing this valuable information and all the comments. What came to mind for me, and I want to know if this is applicable, like I just heard you, Jaja, about the reporting. We, being on the board, we do get a stipend, and I just found out that it's not taxable. And it was recommended by my tax preparer to come sign a certain form so that they can take out the taxes so that I won't owe at the end of the year.
Okay,
Oh,
yes, so what you're saying, Dr. Sam, is that you are reporting your income to your tax preparer.
This
And they will take out the taxes for you. That's exactly what Kelsey was saying. We have to be responsible for our own taxes on a stipend. Know that anything that's $600 or more, that whoever you're getting your stipend from, they have to report that to the IRS. So if you don't file your taxes, and there's a lot of people who file taxes, they may miss it, but once you do file it, they will zero in on you. right?
So
No money.
my follow-up question I'm asking for us as a item or thing to do, would I heard mention of the 90, something 99, and I know I signed up. I don't want to take up a lot of time, but do I contact Chelsea or Catherine and say, can you have it sign something where you can take out the taxes
No.
under this one?
KCRHA, yeah, as per the stipend
Mhm.
agreement, KCRHA is not able to do that. That's
Okay,
not something
that,
they're able to do.
thank you. That clarifies, because I was going to make an appointment and ask, so this is good timing. Thank you for sharing that. I'll just continue to do what I do. So we don't take out. There's no way, right?
KCRHA does not.
Yeah, KCRHA, there may be a way that a tax organization could help facilitate that, but I'm not well versed in that.
Can I just say that? So what happens is when we are contractors, you'll get a 1099 if you go over for the money that you receive, right? So when you get that 1099, that will show the full amount of money you made
Right.
without taxes, because KCR doesn't take out taxes, that you would give to the IRS. And based on however much money that is, it'll determine if it's taxable or not. But I'm telling you, anything over $600 and over is taxed.
Amen.
Anytime,
Yes.
This is Tom Regan from Coordinated Entry. Just an aside comment on this too, is that if you don't have like a tax person who will like do that for you, something that anytime that I've, made money through in a form where I'm getting a 1099, like when I was in school, the rule of thumb I always went by was, because they're not taking any taxes out on it, I would just like take between 20 and 30% myself and put it in my savings account and like save that chunk for tax day, so that I make sure that I have money to pay my taxes when I'm gonna owe on, April 15th.
Right.
Okay,
whatever.
thank you. Thank you. That
And I just wanna
everybody,
state
thank you.
broadly that none of this is like legal or
Right, legal,
financial
right.
advice.
Yep.
Thanks,
thank you.
Kelsey.
Yeah.
That
No.
this is
Yeah.
a conversation.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you so
Where
much.
there are no professionals providing that
Exactly.
advice, so please confer
Yeah,
with
with
a professional to
Right,
make those decisions.
right,
Yes,
yeah.
because
Well-
we're not tax guys.
Right, yeah. We're just board members.
Kelsey, I'm wondering if one of the things we can do in the future is create a list of tax agents that are friendly to kind of this work or more familiar with this work, that can be provided as kind of onboarding materials. So that, like, as part of the stipend process, it explains this, and then it's also, here are some people, like, it sounds like Dr. Sam's potentially got like somebody who knows what they're doing better than we do. Like, who can we make that like can help set our people up right? And I'm sorry, Amy, I jumped in front of you. Go ahead.
You and I are simpatico. I was thinking the same thing. So a really good resource is the Northwest Justice Project. And so they offer a lot of things. They have sliding scale fees for individuals. Also, a lot of your senior centers, places for that, for people who are eligible to qualify to be in a senior level, which I think is what, 55 and over? I don't even know. I'm getting there. And so there are other resources, but Northwest Justice Project is really a great resource. They're a 501c3, and they have lots of legal plus tax advice, but really around those tax preparation times. So we might be a little over the curve. You'll really see at those senior centers that they'll have people come volunteer and offer their services, often for free. So some food for thought there. I'm trying to think if I'm kind of a glorified Google data collector in my industry. I feel like that's 9/10 of my job. And so if I can come across any of that stuff, I'll let y'all know. But Northwest Justice Project, again, for the KCK LMNOP folks. Sorry, I get so sideways here. All the fun acronyms. that might be a good lead for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And Victor put United Way of King County in the chat too, which I've used their agency before. They're brilliant. Amaya, you had your hand up, or did I still what you're gonna say?
I did have my hand up, and I did want to back Victor up on the United Way. They've done my taxes a couple times, and if you guys are interested, if you make under a certain amount, I believe Cash App will also help you file your taxes for free, and that's what I used this year.
Cool.
So,
Yeah, that's-
it helps me with that.
That's very true. Thank you for that. That's and of course, H&R Block, guys. No, I'm just kidding. Can't even know.
TurboTax,
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of.
Yeah. And
Well-
it's not an odd thing for
We
us
are
to-
also not formally endorsing
No.
or suggesting any single one.
No.
These are
Oh,
options
yes.
We're having a
and
discussion. Yep.
ideas.
We're having a loosey-goosey discussion. None of us know what the heck we're talking about.
Let's move to the next slide before we get into more legal trouble. Or
Who's counting?
Yeah,
There's-
this is not legal advice.
or advice from Alex in the chat too. That is not an endorsement.
Right.
So the meat of what I'm glad we had that opportunity, because I wasn't even tracking the tax thing. But this is a very complicated policy. So these are the current eligible activities, and right now KCRHA is doing a couple of things to update the process. And one of the things that I thought and they thought would be helpful is just taking this opportunity to just review kind of what's eligible, what's ineligible, and maybe provide some feedback. Are there things missing? Maybe there's things on here that just don't make sense. Tamara's asked if we can zoom in on the slide. And I'm happy to kind of call these out. Eligible activities include, it's weird.
I don't think I can do that, Tamara, unfortunately. I'm trying and it's all wonky.
It would look weird, but if you want to go out of presentation mode, you could zoom in on the raw slide.
Bruce. Okay, what am I doing? And I need to go back. There we go.
Is it-
It is still, it's not letting me do that in the way that I have it set up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd be
I'll
happy to
read
read it if you want. Dorsal, do you want me to read it or do you want to read it?
Your voice probably sounds better, so you go.
Why don't I read it?
Dorsal, excuse me, what I'm able to do is on my own device, I'm able to enlarge it, and I can see it. It gets bigger, zoom out on my phone. So we can do it individually.
If that is an option, that
If
would
it's
say,
an option.
yeah. Tamara, you were the one that flagged. Are you able to zoom in yourself?
Yeah, actually, it looks a lot better.
So these are the things that are eligible, and for the most part, you live these. We'll have them, but let's go to the next slide and look at the ineligible. So these are the ineligible activities. And so here in a second, as we think about the listening session or refining, we just want to try and kind of keep in mind, like, most of these aren't ineligible because a staff person decided it, or even the COC board. They're ineligible because of the law, and it's federal law. So it would be a challenge to advocate at currently. But you can see kind of right here at the top, like, and it's kind of the main one. And I think for us, it's probably the biggest challenge, because my idea, probably the one I think about is the one that violates this first one, which is we can't do something that a paid employee could or should be doing. And that's interpretable. And I think that's kind of one of the hard points for us, because I think we could do more, but we also have to respect that piece.
Shaw has their hand up.
Yeah. So that first one, is that people's, PLE?
People with lived experience.
That's
how
okay,
it's-
got you.
It's
I just had to check, make sure that acronym was called
Yes,
out.
yes,
Thank you.
yes. people with lived experience.
And I believe that this one is more about like if you were a person with lived experience working in an organization that wants you to participate in a
Right,
committee or work
exactly.
group, and they're paying you to do so, you couldn't get reimbursed from the
That's
stipend.
double dipping.
Double dipping, you're right. Thanks, Dorsal. I just wanted to clarify that. Go ahead.
Well, no, yeah, great. Tamara?
One, I was asking if you could like send us a link. I'd love to have I'd love to nerd out over like policies and laws so I know what I'm doing. I was not aware of this. And if an employer approves somebody to do the work, knowing that they would also be getting a stipend, could both parties, like the person with lived experience and the employer, potentially be held liable for something that both parties were unaware of but engaged in anyway? I'm just curious.
I think we can't.
That's not a question I think anyone in this space is able to answer.
But
Yeah,
Well, you
attorneys
should
are
get
good.
an answer.
sorry, I want to make sure that Christina got called on, because I saw that she had a question. They can come on mute. Yeah. Christina, are you able to come off mute? Okay. When we get Christina's question, we can come back to it.
Okay. And I think next slide, I think we got one more and then we go into discussion. So we're getting close. Oh yeah. So as we mentioned, or as Kelsey mentioned, rather, not me, like they kind of pre-budgeted these items out. And so you can kind of see here a breakdown this is specific to the COC board. So this is specifically our branch of the policy, but you can kind of see here broken out roughly the estimated or the budgeted amount that they're anticipating a board member to have kind of in a 2-week period. If you go to the next slide, I think there's a better version of this, which, and we will be sending out these slides with a packet, and there are hyperlinks in it to both the labor law and to also the Washington State labor website on volunteership.
So before you go further, Christina is off of mute. So Christina, would love it if you could raise your question.
There's something wrong.
Yep. And you are unmuted, and we cannot hear you.
You might have to type it in then.
Yeah, Christina, if you would put it in the Q&A, or you can text me and we can make sure it gets addressed.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yes.
So this is roughly, now this would vary a little bit. Some of you are on more than one committee. Some of you are basically on every committee we have, which respect, but your hours are going to look very differently if you're on one committee versus 4 committees. But this is,
You on speaker?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry, we got Christina on the phone. Sorry about that. Okay.
no,
I'm sorry, I do not know technology, but my questions are specifically looking at 3 slides ago, things like the South King County group, which was taken over from the health King County Public Health that we're supposed to get stipends from, as well as vehicle residency. Where are those going to come from? How did those like specific little groups weren't like really put in any of those slides? But I know I'm supposed to get paid for both of those. And then a third thing, I was asked really specifically, by Catherine to speak about homelessness in the disability community. Catherine specifically asked, I know Dorsal and them also asking, but Catherine specifically herself reached out to speak. What about like those type of situations? I know the first two are covered, and I'm wondering where that money is coming out of, because I want to make sure it's see where it's, because there's so many different things we're getting paid from, and I just want to make sure it's clear that it's covered, if that makes sense. And the third one is really, it doesn't mention if, I've also been asked by KCRHA a year and a half ago to speak at one of those, what is that, the HUD programming things, and I did that as well on behalf of, not behalf, but they asked me to do it, and I said I was a COC member, and so like how does all that work? I guess is my question. Thank you.
Yeah, Christina, those might be some just, because you can hear me. So a couple of those we will need to look at what was, if anything was approved for other work groups aside from the ones up here of the board, the YAB, COC committees and work groups and rating. These are the known programs and projects with approved stipend budgets for 2025. So things from 23 or 24 may have been different. I can't speak to other work groups that may be going on. I will connect with the appropriate folks internally around anything that's not listed up here. What is on the slide is what I know is approved and has a budget line item. Because things get changed from year to year. The piece regarding as a board member, if you are being asked to like present at a community meeting on behalf of and with affirmation of the board, there's some pieces allocated. So some of this is on a case by case that we would, have tracked within that stipend request form. And other questions you have, let's connect offline as well, and I can get you some more specific information.
And quick follow-up question on that, Kelsey, would just be for me to think about. When it says affirmation from the board, is that something we should be making like a template recommendation for kind of thing? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would recommend that if you are particularly when looking at the community updates that are done at the end of the agenda of, this community update is happening. We'd love somebody from the board to attend and kind of share what's happening with COC funds or with the COC. I think that is a really great, open, transparent way to identify the board has collectively decided that Tamra, we'd love for you to go talk about X at this upcoming community meeting.
Right.
Okay.
In that way.
I can really see some like progression on how that would go. Just trying to think of like ideas from the board members, obviously. Whoa, there's a lot. Sorry. There's a lot going on in that chat for a second. It distracted me, but I really think that it's a great conversation to have this and kind of speak towards, what is it that we want the board to be doing and outreach wise, communicating with our membership, and just how we can really affirm that and make it concrete is really a good conversation to have. So thank you.
Maybe we can do that at a committee.
Maybe we can have our further conversation. Yeah. So is there any other questions? Yeah,
Tamara.
I had a thought and then I lost it. So there you go.
It'll come back to you.
And one of the comments in the chats from Elizabeth, and it's a question around the work groups, 1 hour per month per meeting per year. That is yes. For if you're on a work group, there's it's a allotted 1 hour meeting once a month. There's an allotted hour for materials and research and follow up, but that is, one of the questions we'll talk about here in a second when we get to the listening session, with the caveat being, like, even if even if we were to say, okay, let's up that up to 5 hours, it still might be a situation where you can only have, say, 14 hours in a month or 12 hours in a month. And so it's better to be accurate. And so like, if that's accurately what we need those 14 hours to be, I would make the argument that that's what we should advocate for. But I just want to be clear that there's a federal limitation on just how many hours per month, and there's a budget limitation how many hours per month as we get ready to. Let's go ahead and go to that next slide.
Just really quickly, Dorsal, in response to a comment that's both in the chat and to Elizabeth's comment. So the budget that's created is using a kind of allotted amount of time. So it is budgeted that those receiving a stipend may receive a stipend for up to 15 hours per month. However, those, that's the maximum we have in the budget. That doesn't mean that everyone is doing 15 hours a month, but that is how we develop the budget. For work groups and committees, we have detailed about up to 5 hours in order to ensure that we are not under budgeted. We project a little bit higher than we anticipate. And this is looking at prior years and identifying kind of just estimates of time that is put into the board or a work group or committee. So they are estimates, not necessarily the perfect snapshot of reality. In order to have a kind of cohesive budget.
Yeah. It's kind of like going grocery shopping. You start with the budget number and you break it down to what you need.
Yep, I budgeted for, a slice of bread, not a slice of bread.
A whole loaf.
A whole loaf of bread, eggs and a bundle of bananas. I actually didn't buy bananas because I didn't want bananas. So I got 2 loaves of bread and eggs.
Because they were on sale or whatever, yeah. And so that's kind of the modular, that's the word.
Thank you.
Okay.
And next slide.
Is it, you see it?
Says listening session?
I'm still seeing monthly activities.
Good. This is awesome. Oh.
It might be me this time.
Dorsal, I think it's you because I can see the listening session.
All right. I don't recall the exact wording of the slide that I put together, but it was past Dorsal, so it's probably a lot smarter than present Dorsal would be. But at this point, we want to open up the discussion, although I love this group because we never close discussion. We just have discussion. But are there things on here that, and let me caveat this piece, although I think it's on the slide. As you saw, this isn't just COC money. This is partially funding that KCRHA has, and it is a policy that applies across our fiscal partner, which is KCRHA. And so what are some of the things that we could see or we would want to advocate for, including as eligible activities, ineligible activities, or what are some of the feedbacks we can give, like this tax piece, which is, you can't take liability, but are there ways we can just ensure that somebody new to a stipend process is set up for success?
Dorsal, do you mind if I just read what it says on the slide? Do you think is that helpful?
You're welcome to. It just switched over ironically, but
okay, good. All right, cool. Just making sure.
Amy, I see your hand.
I don't know this setting appropriateness, anything, but if we reached out to United Way or Northwest Justice Project or one of these nonprofit organizations and solicit a tax preparer to give a presentation and maybe come up with a 1-pager of information, we could put that in our packet for people. I think that would be beneficial.
Great idea, Amy. Lean in on our partners, right?
And both Alex and I are taking notes, so okay, make sure.
Cool, so maybe we should take a few minutes to just kind of like sit with that piece, or do we want to put a specific slide up for people to look at while we're kind of thinking about these things?
Can I just say that I read through this already, right? And because I'm kind of business minded, I think it makes a lot of sense, right? You have to have a budget, and there's so many of us, right? And so therefore, we're here to volunteer, right? And it's coming from the heart and your passion. So it's really not about the dollars, right? It's good to have them to remove barriers for folks. But I mean, I get it, a maximum of 15 hours per person. I mean, and everybody does not volunteer to that capacity.
Correct.
I want to make clear, right? But I just want to say that that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think so too.
I think it just makes a lot of sense.
Sometimes when we go over, right, it's like,
Right.
you're not getting the same, yeah.
And it's nice to know, though, it's nice to be aware of what the parameters are of what you're getting into, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to go into something thinking that there's more or less, right? It's good just to know the facts.
Yeah.
If I may take the facilitator hat off for a second and throw an idea out there. And I want to be clear, the action isn't my idea. Tamara and others have uplifted the idea of potentially using a peer-to-peer model, not to replace, but to amplify the onboarding of future board members. I caveat the request acknowledging that that's really fine line between where is the KCRHA job duties versus a volunteer. But I think there may be there's a value to the peer-to-peer piece that I don't think is replicated in the staff structure, not to take away from the staff, but I like the peer-to-peer model, and I'd like to do it even if because Jaja's right, it's not about the money, but at the same time, there would be travel time, there would be childcare needs, things like that. So I'd be curious if that's something we could add.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that is good, because I know in other spaces, I do get travel time. So,
Right.
and parking.
That's why.
Because parking is expensive downtown.
Elizabeth earlier in the chat asked about the possibility of Orca cards as a form of stipend or compensation. Although I'm guessing that's partly what, yeah.
I would just say that I would highly love that as well. Whatever the correct terminology is on that. I think that that's a massive, oh my gosh, what is the word? Massive help. It would be a massive help if there was something like that. Just as you know, they are getting finicky with the fair enforcement, and I think that it's important to always pay into our public systems when we can. So, but of course, if that doesn't, there's ways. Maybe there's a way.
So a question in relation to that, as if there are certain pieces that we want to look at supporting versus others, it's all the same pool of money.
Right.
So would want to think about, would that come from, would the offer of an Orca card and transportation be something that folks would, sorry, my brain is losing. Would that be a better desire than the clear allotment of 15 hours a month? We budget to provide Orca cards for X number of board members.
And then 10 hours.
Yeah.
Kind of like a benefit in a way.
We have to kind of balance where that comes from.
I think,
But just want to think about. what supports are the most meaningful.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say quickly on my end, I'm seeing, what I would see value in is like if it's a unlimited year-long Orca card.
Right.
I would totally be okay with whatever hours get cut on my end, because I take the bus a lot.
Right.
And that would be very helpful for me. And that seems like a benefit. That would be something that is kind of tangible in a volunteer way. So
Right.
that's what I think.
And I was gonna say, I don't know how that would work, but I think it's a good idea. The thing about volunteering is how can we remove barriers?
Right.
For folks, right?
Yeah.
And, like I live in Kent, I wouldn't want an Orca card because that's just too many buses.
Oh, yeah.
You know
And
what I'm saying?
it could be
And-
like an option maybe.
Right, but I think that for those folks, I think it should be an option in lieu of payment, or,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know how that, because the money, like Kelsey was saying, don't change.
It's like 2 tiers, right?
You know, you got $200, right? And you got 20 people.
Right.
That's $10 each, right?
Right, and so breaking it down like that, if we think of it like
Right.
that, so there's $10 each and 5 of that would go to the Orca
Right,
for
exactly,
me,
right.
maybe not for
exactly,
you.
Right, exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Just a thought.
We, so comment in the chat from Maya, work hard wouldn't be beneficial. Tamara, you are first, and then Amy after Tamara.
Yes, I think this conversation around flexibility and how we offer and deliver incentives or stipends to make it meaningful, because I love what Kelsey just said. That is you lead with well-being and what's meaningful for people. That's the number one thing. That's where you start. That's how you make determinations of the next steps in supporting a movement or supporting a decision or just supporting legislation. Just always circle back to what's going to be most meaningful and effective for you to address whatever A, B, and C issue you may be experiencing. Start with what matters to the person.
Mhm. I love that.
It's giving me some good ideas.
Yeah, this is cool. And then Amy, right, was next?
I guess question with comment is, have we looked into any of these kind of philanthropic type of agencies or groups? So looking at Comcast, you know, they offer, if you have a child or you fall under low income, they offer you low income internet. You know, there are certain programs, whether it be through Microsoft, the library system, where they donate tablets or laptops or things. So then as a board member, we could, you know, house these with the intent of board member X amount of these things. And then if someone has to check it out, like a library system for those who may not have the technology or the capability, could we think about things like that? Because I think that would be helpful too for anyone who may have, you know, constraints. And I know for myself, I work in Tumwater, I live in Kent, and I will rarely be in Seattle unless I am absolutely having to be. And I definitely can say that I came into this group not knowing what to expect with my eyes and heart wide open. But it was definitely a lot more than I expected it to be at the same time. And so I think that, you know, being able to explain that, especially to people who don't, like you guys understand the lingo so well and the acronyms and the things. I'm still so very learning, you know, a year in or almost a year in. Our anniversary is coming up here, right? So, you know, that kind of stuff for me as an outsider is beneficial. And so that's where my thoughts go. Thank you for letting me speak.
Yeah. And Amy, I feel like we're all still very much learning. It's, you know, I feel like there's levels of, you know, what we understand as we go through this program. It's very interesting. Thank you for that though. And you're doing great. You're doing great. Is there any other people? Dorsal, I'm sorry, I can't see the screen.
I don't see any other hands up. I am being mindful of the time, even though I know we have your time. But it's been a good conversation. It looks like we've given some good ideas to KCRHA. We'll send the slide deck out afterwards, so feel free to reach out directly to Kelsey and Catherine. Very excited to get Catherine back from her well-earned vacation.
Yes, yes. She's been gone for too long.
Yeah, never happening again. She's not
No.
allowed to go anywhere again.
Yes, she can. Not yet.
Just wait for the end.
So thank you all for that discussion. This is something that we want to continue to think about. There's some timesheet work that Kelsey is working on as well to make the timesheet more efficient and make a little bit more sense, dare I say. So excited for you all to see that when it happens too.
Can I ask if anybody want to make a motion to go into a break? Is that what we have to do, or do we not have to do it that
We
way?
already amended
We
the,
did? Okay. So we
And before we do that, one more thing. The only other thought that I have with transportation is that I know that we have a reimbursement log for like mileage, and that goes through a lot of nonprofits. And so it could be an either or situation maybe. So an Orca card may not be beneficial to some people, but maybe based on mileage, we're offering this in compensation for, you know, that kind of thing. So food for thought. Sorry. Now
No.
we can motion. Thank you.
No, you're great. We don't need to make a motion, but I love that idea because it just made me kind of think about a question. If we had an ability to get either an Orca card or reimbursed for mileage, would we have a better turnout for in-person meetings? Like, would there be more people willing to come to the in-person? And if not, that's okay. You're allowed to say whatever your answer is, but just something to think about. Would we see more in-person attendance? Because I do think that could be beneficial for the work that we're doing. So just throwing that out there. Break. See you guys at 3:21 for the next discussion. As people are rolling in, if we can get you to come off camera just to know that you're here. Great. Got some beautiful faces here. Ursula, I believe you're leading this one too, correct?
Yes, wasn't long enough of a break, but I am ready. Welcome back, everyone. Again, for the record, Dorsa plants, he, his, and we will have another slide deck for this portion of the discussion as well too. So now we're moving into a portion of discussion where we've been trying to have this conversation for a little bit. So we've got a little bit of extra time. We actually have a little bit more than an hour left of the meeting. So we've got time to take in and kind of think about it. But, you know, there is a lot going on, and there is a heavy and growing need. Earlier, we were joking around about a grocery budget and changing it from a slice to a loaf of bread. Well, for a lot of people, a slice of bread is actually right about what they've got, unfortunately, right now. And we are part of the system that needs to function effectively, efficiently, and collaboratively to provide our neighbors that opportunity to proceed to a better life, to better well-being. And so there's two aspects of this conversation that we'll have today. The first is going to be focusing on the COC membership. We have a strong representation of COC board members in our work groups and committees, but we are not seeing necessarily that same strong turnout. If you want to go ahead and throw the numbers up on the screen.
These are also old. I did not update this because I completely forgot. That's okay.
Kelsey has had a lot, and like I said, we threw that stipend thing on her. Like, nope,
Yeah.
This is happening. You will make this happen. Thank you for being human with us, Kelsey.
I try.
And so the convening work group's the one that stands out to me the most. We've gotten feedback around, ways to improve the convening and the need for more convenings. And one of the things that was first on my mind, and I believe Ruby's as well, is what can we do to increase the convenings every year? We've got the budget, we've got a board willingness, but our convening work group is only made up of board members. And so there's a real need for us to do this work right. We have to have the membership participating. It's impossible to do this work without the membership. And so the first part of our conversation is really going to focus on that piece. What do we need as a board to be effective from the membership? What can we give the membership to build trust and a rapport and a collaboration that makes them want to be with us? What voices do we need to represent? What voices aren't here at all that absolutely need to be here? And what has been done so far, because there has been some work done to recruit members, but there's more to come. And I think at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Kelsey to kind of go through the actual need for the membership.
So we wanted to give you all just an overview around current membership. Again, these might not be 100% accurate right now. They were when I first put this together. So there could be slight little differences of these overall numbers, but generally an accurate picture. So our current membership is consistent of 240 people. Within those people, we have 116 who are registered through membership organizations. So they are either an employee, a board member, or have a formal affiliation with an organization. So are part of that organization. And there's 116 organizations registered. We then have 58 who are just individual community members. So there's no kind of formal organizational affiliation. Of that 240 people, We have 37 people who are active on committees and work groups. We have 8 board members who are on one or more of the work groups and committees that we hold. And we've got 29 COC members who are on one or more of those work groups.
There she is.
And want to provide a little bit around like why we're also talking about membership recruitment and a little bit around HUD recommendations. These recommendations are not like hard and fast, you must have this, but it's recommendations on how to have a robust, healthy, effective, and impactful continuum of care. So HUD recommends seeing members who are part of government agencies, housing and service providers, community-based or other partners or organizations, organizations and individuals from business and private sector, and data and research entities. And I'm gonna break this down a little bit as well of like, what types of organizations are we talking about when we talk about business and private sector? Because those are just really big buckets. So when we talk about local government or government agencies, this is all sorts of different things. It could be local government, so city or county officials, state government, housing entities, housing agencies, Office of Homeless Youth, Department of Commerce, like state level government entities. Public housing authorities. So locally, we have 3. We've got the Seattle Housing Authority, King County Housing Authority, Renton Housing Authority. HUD recommends law enforcement agencies, school districts or local education agencies, public child welfare agencies, health departments, mental health agencies, substance abuse agencies, all things that are government entities. So when I talk about mental health or substance use, we're talking about government level. So SAMHSA, which is the a mental health, substance use mental health agency, the behavioral health department. Those are what we're thinking about when we talk about government agencies. Veteran affairs, so veteran affairs boards, folks from the VA, courts of probation or parole officers, and then emergency management agencies. And I believe we have a hand. I'm gonna get through all the recommendations and then we'll take questions. I know, Christina, got your message. So when we talk about housing and service providers, we're talking about folks who are doing the on-the-ground work through their organization. So nonprofit homeless service providers, victim service providers, so domestic violence shelters and domestic violence providers, faith-based organizations, affordable housing developers, so separate from public housing authorities, but also looking at other affordable housing developers, organizations that are serving unaccompanied youth, organizations serving persons with HIV or AIDS, behavioral and mental health service providers, substance abuse treatment service providers. So rather than like the agency setting the policies, the folks doing that work. Organizations who provide permanent supportive housing. These are specific program type call outs that HUD has. So permanent supportive housing providers, rapid rehousing providers, and emergency shelter operators. All entities who are key to on the ground, how kind of policies, programs are done and operated in action. We then talk about community-based or other just partners. So this is where we want to uplift individuals with lived experience of homelessness, homeless or formerly homeless advocates. So folks who are in like part of advocacy groups, not just individuals with experience, but also like more formal coalitions. It could be community or neighborhood groups, civic and volunteer organizations, philanthropic organizations, local workforce development boards, employment agencies or job training program agencies, educational institutes, colleges, universities, early childhood education providers, transportation providers, legal aid organizations, LGBTQ advocacy groups, immigrant and refugee service organizations, populations that may really need voices at tables right now.
Exactly.
And when we talk about business or private sector, some of the call outs there are chambers of commerce or representatives from a chamber of commerce, private foundations, thinking of local philanthropic or private foundations who might have deep pockets and not know what to do with those deep pockets. Employers or business owners, landlords or property owners, real estate professionals, financial institutions. And finally, we have the data and research entities. So HMIS lead agencies, research and evaluation organizations, local universities or research institutions. That is a very quick, fast overview of what those things are. We will be sending out and posting slides, so please do not worry. I know, Christina, you had your hand raised, so I want to pause just to take any questions or comments around HUD recommendations. And I'm going to go back to this first slide that had the overview. So Christina, if you want to give me a call, I'll put you on speaker. Yeah, there we go. Wow, that's quick. All right, you're on speaker, Christina.
Okay. I want to say something, and Tamara, please chip in too. When we started this, and right when we transitioned from all home, we had tons of Seattle City people involved, and I don't see any of them anymore. I don't even see King County employees, participants, city, and I don't know what happened there. Two, I've always been part of the SPC even before when it was with All Home, and it was mostly made up of people like data nerds from other places. All those individuals are gone. I don't even know what happened to them or where they went. And it's always, I've mentioned it over and over again. There was only like one or two of us people with living or lived experience even around on that. And it was like, there was like 5 to 1 for like me, you know what I mean? They were there, and it's like, we need to figure out why these people have left, because there has been an exodus. I can clearly say there's been an exodus. And then another point I want to make out is many of us sit on these boards already in different aspects, and probably we don't even know that. Like, I'm on King County's mental health board, behavioral health board, excuse me, and I'm also on, the Human Rights Committee, etc. I bet there's a lot of us that do, but do we have that opportunity to even bring those voices in or back and forth? I don't see that we have created an opportunity or space to be able to do that. And then with that, we need to do something kind of like a power word. I don't know if some of you guys have better words for it than me, but we need to take all those categories and list out who all our community partners are first, and then look and see how many of us are already part of that, and then have like a written way or an idea how to bring that information back and forth, because we've already, a lot of those we already have. I know Victor Lou themselves already is part of some of those other things that doesn't even, we're doing that work. And so we need to have a way to be able to, or an idea on how to bring it back and forth and include it, etc. Because and look at doing that work. And so that's my thing. But when we first started this, Tamara knows, we had a lot of these people here. I know the philanthropy, and there was a whole thing with that. That was a little bit on a different side of whatever happened there. Okay. But we had City of Seattle people. We had City Council sent their person that was doing the housing stuff to our meetings. County Council had. So we even had a state person that was participating in the very beginning that came down and I remember specifically, and it's like, where have these people gone? Why have we lost them? What is up? And I think, we've got to answer that question and then see what we've got within our own midst first, because of that. So, okay, Miss Ruby, I'm going to hang up. I see your arm in the sky.
Yes, thank you. Really quick, I'm gonna let Kelsey handle some of that, but I was just wanting to uplift the fact that I believe in, correct me if I'm wrong, but the implementation board did have some of these representations that were present for our board in
Right.
quotes. So like some of the seats that were there specifically catered to these HUD particulars, if I remember correctly, and that's one of the unfortunate things to losing the implementation board, and that's why we're having this discussion to bring these parties back into the continuum at a high level. And then also just when we speak about the different hats that we wear, yes, please, like, I feel like that's why we have these public meetings to be able to uplift those particular things that we're noticing from those other communities. And I believe there is a matrix for kind of sorting that out. And maybe we should look at that sometime together, but
I've got slides on that.
oh, she does. Okay, great. And Jaja, I see your hand.
And we
We've
also
got, sorry, Martha was first, Tamara, and then Jaja. Sorry.
Oh, wow. Sorry about that.
No worries. And I know Christina had referenced Tamara in particular. So Tamara, you go ahead and then I'm happy to jump in after.
Oh, well, thank you. I was just actually going to say that what I really remember, and this was even before I even applied to be on the board, when I first entered like the rapid rehousing field, it was very obvious that there was no one at the table who had lived experience. Everybody, like when I would explore like the topic or how do you make decisions, and nobody there identified as having anyone with lived experience. That's what really set me in this direction of amplifying that particular group of folks who have been traditionally disenfranchised and marginalized and furthest away from opportunity. So I absolutely remember that. And so I think since then, all home evolved, and then KCRHA has really, I think, done a fabulous job of uplifting the value of lived experience. Now we can debate, the approaches, but like that's ultimately always going to be the underlying like measure of progress, is how well are we lifting up the wisdom of people who have traditionally been silenced and pushed aside because they don't fit into this dominant paradigm of, capitalist ideologies and political crap. So that's what I would say. And then the other thing I meant to maybe having exit interviews, if people are willing to like, provide a termination notice or say that I'm leaving, let's explore why. Like what could we do differently? What support was missing, or would you have needed, or do you need? And then just like really thinking about this as community asset mapping.
Yeah.
We all have various talents and skills to bring to the table, and we should all be thinking of each other as like our peers, obviously, but also specialists, advocates, the peers in the community who have specific knowledge that we can tap into. If we don't have it ourselves, then we know where to go. And we can be strengthening that infrastructure for people, that safety net, and then like improving the health and well-being of everyone around. I don't mean to make that sound simplistic, but
It should be simple.
Martha, Jaja, then Amy.
Thanks. Yes, I wanted to broadly echo what Christina was raising, and also just acknowledge like, hey, I work for King County, and very much appreciate the opportunity to engage in the space, and also have we've got staff who are members of the System Performance Committee, the Coordinated Entry Committee, and participating on the Charter Review Committee. And then I also usually participate in the NOFO work group. So just, but I think this speaks or raises for me that we don't all have like that awareness of who is engaging in different spaces and where we have voices and perspectives missing. And so like a kind of a bit of a mapping assessment exercise would be great. And just that, yes, there have been kind of other eras where we've had really heightened engagement. I think about when we had like a work group dedicated to around student homelessness and working really closely with school districts. And so there are some really key like system partners. And if we can do some really intentional kind of recruitment and outreach to bring folks back to the table. And even thinking back to the earlier public comment about like outreach, we've got some providers who are doing great outreach work. And so where's that like visibility and awareness, and also then the engagement with folks doing outreach work in these spaces? Yeah,
Before
thanks.
we get, oh, pardon me, Martha. Before we get to a couple other questions, I want to get to a couple other slides that might relate to some of the comments that have been going on, because I think those will be good for context. So we went over the HUD recommendations. So Amy, Jaja, please hold your thoughts.
If that's okay.
So I want to share where we have really great representation, where we've got okay representation, and what are the areas and like groups where we really need to be focusing on. So, and this is based on our membership and what membership individuals and organizations have provided when they register to be a COC member.
Okay.
So we've got really strong representation of Black, Brown, Indigenous, and people of color-led organizations, emergency shelter operators, nonprofit homeless service providers, folks with lived or living experience of homelessness, faith-based organizations, youth advocates or service providers, rapid rehousing or PSH providers, domestic violence advocates, LGBTQIA advocates and service orgs, local government staff, and street outreach teams. So this is based on like there are like 5 or more organizations or individuals who identify these areas as representations. So this is based on their self-identification organization. Ones that are sparsely represented, so there's like 1 or 2 organizations or individuals that note this, are business owners or employers. We've got 1 or 2 organizations that state this, or individuals. Veteran Affairs, it's present, but it's a small representation. I think there's like maybe 2 people of 240. Yeah.
Wow.
Private foundations, I think like 1 or 2 again. Civic.
What do you mean by private foundations? Is that like the Bill Gates or something?
That like Rakes or Schultz Foundation.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Thank you.
Civic or volunteer organizations. So this is like neighborhood groups, or a volunteer organization, mutual aid. Yeah, there's a presence, but not a lot of it. School administrators and homeless liaisons. There's like maybe 3. So, and then behavioral health providers. There's also a lot of like overall behavioral health representation, but not a lot of exact providers. So there's folks who are have connection to behavioral health, but not formal behavioral health providers. And then folks who are missing or just super underrepresented. Chambers of commerce, so really business owners or employers, we just don't really have any representation.
Yeah.
Like courts, probation, parole, so law enforcement and legal enforcement. So there's no one connected to like the criminal legal justice system. Emergency management agencies is just not there.
Really?
And financial institutions. So banks, credit unions, anything about kind of just like financial management, financial representation. We don't really have either. So wanted to, oh, there's more. Missing and underrepresented. HIV and AIDS service organizations, landlords and property owners, legal aid organizations, LGBTQIA Two-Spirit Plus led organizations. There's organizations who serve those, but not led by. So there's I just want to make that distinction. Local jails, workforce development boards, people with disabilities led organizations. We've got orgs who are serving and working with folks with disabilities, but not a led by organization. Public child welfare agencies, real estate professionals, state domestic violence coalition or state sexual assault coalition, We've got local domestic violence agencies in our local coalition, but not state level. Transportation providers. And okay, that was it. So yes, so we have some like key or areas where we know we have underrepresentation within our COC membership. And I want to pause there because I know there's a number of comments in the chat. Okay, so a couple of questions. Alex is wondering if folks can send in the chat committees that they volunteer on or are board members on. And just some other comments, and I saw a Q&A that I want to pull up. Of the community act. Yep.
So I think it was Amy, right?
Yes.
Or
Let me go
Jaja.
back to those questions. So Amy.
Oh, it was Jaja first. I think.
Oh yeah, Jaja and then Amy.
So my question, it was more of a comment, and you did point it out, because I was thinking, I was on the implementation board, and we, like the real estate, you know, I'm thinking people who are living homeless, right? We need people who can help them. So we need people on the board who think like that, right? We need people who can house them. So we need real estate people, you know, and I'm thinking that these missing or underrepresented, I mean, we need the folks from the jail. Well, and I'm thinking of somebody that I think would be a good fit.
And please
to let her know
Yep.
that, because in my other spaces, I talk to them, right?
Right.
And my doctor went to the jail.
True.
But they got a good doctor, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
But no, that was my comment, that I think it's really important that when we do the board, and that was another question, this is for the board?
This is membership.
Oh, for membership?
Yeah.
Then we need to get them all.
Well, that's what I'm
We
saying.
need to
Yeah.
get them all then, right?
Because
I
that's how
think
we-
for the board though, I was thinking we need people who can help us think in the direction of housing. How can we house these people? People who have housing.
That are market
right?
rate.
Real
Yeah.
estate, right, that I knew I served with on the implementation board.
Yeah.
United Way, on the implementation board, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's different people, and I'm gonna reach out to those individuals and see if they have the capacity just to join the membership.
Yeah.
Since it's a membership driven thing, right?
And I know we got Amy. I just wanted to quickly like build on that, was just, that's how we find board members, is through building the membership, through, you know, really getting to know people. Okay, Amy, sorry. Amy.
No apologies, it's all good. So I think I was confused initially when Kelsey started the presentation. I now understand more that we're looking for membership. So I guess my question is then, what is the benefit of membership? You know, what is it that we're offering as a benefit to entice these individuals to be involved? Not everybody has a soapbox to save the day. And so if we're not going to the bleeding heart syndrome and we're not, you know, appealing to that, how are we appealing to these stakeholders who are avoidant of the topic altogether? The other part of that is that I too am very familiar with lots of these different types of agencies. So when we first started this presentation, my brain went to, oh, we want board members. Well, I know, like right now, with all the budget crisis and scrambling that we're doing within our own sector, and DSHS is reorganizing and they're branching into HICLA instead of Home and Community Services, and DDA is following under here, and there's all this reorg in DSHS, because great time to do that. You know, and even the ombuds, they're like, look, we can't do meetings, we can't do this because our budget is cut or spread thin. We can't offer these people. So again, what is the enticement, whether it's asking for a board member to join or membership? What does membership look like? What is it that we're offering? Yes, I understand the mission and our mission to help these underserviced individuals with the houseless situation. But again, if I'm on the flip side of that, or maybe more conservative, because a lot of these groups have a tendency to be conservative, how are we appealing to that? What is the appeal?
Yeah. And I think that's a really good question to kind of talk about right now. You know, that's like, so this is the first half, or this is like the first portion of this discussion. This is the membership portion. And then we're going to go into like how we recruit, you know, what the timeline is for the board recruitment, just for the record. And I think that, you know, the biggest thing I see as a benefit, and I want to hear other people's experiences and ideas, is that, you know, like we're talking about the convening work group, where, you know, when you have these feedback pieces that you want to see, like that's where you really kind of get those heard, is in these committees and work groups. And as a member, you can join those. And I think there's no limit. Well, maybe not. Anyway, I won't say that out loud because I don't know the answer. So I was just going to say that I think with the loss of the implementation board, kind of dampened a lot of the momentum that there was with the connections on these business owners, and things like that. And another question I had is like, what section do you feel out of all of those sections that we saw earlier, or these underrepresented sectors, excuse me, would be like, what is, out of all of these, what do you think is the most important that we're kind of like really pulling in from? I know they're all very much important, but I just wanted to kind of like have that at the height of our mind. We're all gonna have different answers, I think. But like, for me, I think it's super important to get the business owners involved, because that's one of the biggest contentions that we have is with, you know, the business owners, and my business is being diminished, and they deserve a place to be heard. And they also probably have some solutions that we're not thinking of. And that's what I really want to hone in on, is where are these solutions that are going to be community based? Because if we don't have everybody represented in the membership or at the board level, then how is it that we're going to find connections that are, you know, what do they call it? Innovative, you know? And so I just hope that like the conversation is like centered around solutions. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go a little more. So I want to share a little bit about some steps that we've already
Kelsey.
started taking. Oh, yeah.
Tamara's had her hand up for a bit. I'll wait, 'cause mine's not been up for a while, but I just want to fly. We've got online question.
Oh,
Sorry.
thank you so much. I just wanted to say one quick thing, and I think the benefit of membership is being able to lead social change in collaboration with others, being able to change public consciousness and our culture through unconventional approaches, you know, to homelessness. Have we ever really thought about using arts and culture as a driver, like to reduce the visible homelessness? Have we ever thought about it that way? Have we ever thought about it as more than just a public health concern or a public safety issue, but as something that is a collective responsibility to address? And if you join the well-being revolution, that is what it's about, is creating conditions for more equitable access to the things that make us well. So really starting again with the core piece of social justice is listening to the people, lifting up the most marginalized, centering solutions around the most marginalized, so that everyone who benefits from those changes will feel it. And that's really, I want to say, like, that's to me is the biggest benefit, and that I know that I can help my community drive change and fight oppression in a way that's meaningful to me, but it has to be meaningful to the person.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Tamara.
So kind of on that and talking about what are some of like the incentives and things that are offered. So Catherine, our COC coordinator, has since the beginning of the year been really working on developing our recruitment and how we bring in members. So she's put a lot of effort into looking at missing sectors and representative organizations. That's where a lot of the prior information came from, was from work that Catherine's been doing. She's also been working on sending out recruitment letters, which I think one step that we can take is having all of you have a copy of that recruitment letter as well, so that you can work with you within your networks and social capital. She's been holding one-on-one meetings with missing organizations. So as you are, you know, finding folks, sending that my and Catherine's way, because that will be part of the work that we are doing in terms of membership bolstering. And she's currently been coordinating with about 9 other organizations to kind of bring them into COC membership. So since January, we've had 36 new people join. Again, I haven't looked at this in the last 2 weeks, so that's gonna be a different number. But that includes 5 of the missing or underrepresented sectors. So we've been kind of chipping away at it this year. And I think it's really through tapping into networks that you all are a part of, other memberships are a part of, so that we can know who all to be reaching. So as you do that thinking, like letting Catherine know, letting myself know, so we can do that kind of formal invitation process.
Yeah. I like the letter idea.
I do want to share a little bit, because there is capacity on this.
Right.
This is more around, like the focus that we have is really on that membership bolstering. So that's kind of our big focus for this year as your COC staff. So we're collectively working with our 2 boards, our 2 committees, coordinated committees, performance committee, 3, now 5 work groups. We've got the charter, the cross-cutting policy, the convening, the NOFO, the PIT, and membership recruitment. So that's kind of, those are the big focus areas right now, is really bolstering that membership recruitment. We are also really focusing on overall COC performance management. So how are programs that are COC funded performing? What are their outcomes looking like? What are their spending looking like? And then a focus on bolstering provider training, bolstering the trainings that we provide, because that's one of the incentives of being a member, is getting information, invitations to trainings, to convenings. So it's through our, development work that we are aiming to make being a COC member a much more attractive thing. Like there actually is something that will come out of it.
Yeah.
So we're working on, there'll be a trauma-informed care training that's going to come up in July. We're aiming on having a housing first training in August. And these will all be things that are shared with COC members.
And sometimes you get dessert if you come to the convenings.
And or lunch.
Or lunch too. Yeah.
Can I just say that, Martha said, Amy said, what's gonna pull them in? And what's gonna pull them in is an opportunity to have a voice about, because people think people living unsheltered are bothersome.
Yep.
Okay, but what is the solution? Right? You don't want them in front of your business. You want to see beautification of Seattle, right? Well, you got to house these people who are marginalized. So you get a voice at the table to share your experience of how best we can do that in a collective, not a silo, but in a collective thought process, right? Because we need everybody at the table to solve the problem. Right? And that's what I wanted to say. That's the draw that I want to share with my network. You get a voice at the table to be able to share what it is you feel is the solution to this situation. No, it's not a problem. The problem is that we don't have you at the table.
Yeah. Oh,
that's the problem.
That's a good way to look.
We need to have you at the table so you can let us know how best to accomplish this for the best well-being, as Tamara would say, for those most marginalized who are out there. They don't want to be there. How can we together work collectively to bring them back in?
It almost sounds like you need a soapbox.
Can I step in with my question and also kind of try and knit the 2 conversations together? Because I think we're saying like ships passing in the night situation here, because I don't disagree with what's being said about the reasons that Jaja just gave or Tamara gave. They're the reasons why I'm here. But some of the people that we're talking about needing, in particular landlords, because in my day job, I try to build relationships with landlords and property owners. Unfortunately, part of like part of the question that we have to ask ourselves as a board is like, and I want to say this very carefully, like how pre-revolutionary do you have to be to get to sit at that table? Because Jaja, I hear you that the benefit of being a COC member is that you can bring your experience and bring your solution to the table. But we know that there are some solutions that certain occupations lean towards. And for me, like I'm a very, very pale, very privileged person. And the only reason that I'm able to be in this room is because somebody at some point was kind enough to call me in instead of calling me out. And so I'm curious what support we provide new members, because I've never been onboarded as a COC member. And I want to say this is even prior to KCRHA. I have never been onboarded as a member. And so like, what are we actually doing to like ease people in or make it clear that part of the education is sharing why your experience is both valid, but also is part of a larger picture, a tapestry that we have to paint for you. And then just one last thing really quickly, have we explored adding continuing education credits to some of these convening trainings so that there's actually like a real substantial benefit for somebody?
Like a certificate or something is kind of what you're saying?
Part of it would be,
Continuing education.
so what we could, like previously there have been like larger convenings where like to maintain a license or to maintain just like a credential,
right?
You need to take X number of hours of a course. And there have been past convenings, I know that All Home did when they were doing convenings, which some were like a very large one where they would have like bigger breakout sessions. And you can bring in someone who is certified to do a continuing education class, do an education or updating of information, and you can sign up to get continuing education. Okay. That's a really great idea, Dorsal.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Great conversation, guys. We're getting good ideas. Is there any other hands on the call? Okay. Earlier today, we heard something at the peer sharing group, right? About a membership. Did you hear about their little portal thing? And so I know that that's something that we can't talk about right now because that takes a lot of technology. But I wanted to share that there was a conversation today at a peer sharing group for COCs talking about putting their documents behind a check-in, behind a login wall. So that's not searchable or for terms particularly. And Dorsal's giving me a look, but maybe it's something I think there.
I'm gonna reframe.
I was just gonna say
around, so something to look at as an option of like, I think particularly around onboarding memberships and access to membership is what are things, and again, I think this would be a long-term goal. But developing like a COC member portal that has access to like, what is a COC, has webinars behind it, has recorded trainings there.
You're picking up what I was putting down.
Yep, but I think that there are some really good kind of long-term things for us to look at as we kind of lay the stones to have a more robust COC.
That could be incentivization. Having an account on a thing where you get special, like, let's be real.
Access,
a member access page.
Maybe get an updated video every week, of me saying hi. Whatever, we'll make it happen. But I liked that because I had heard us talk about an application portal, a membership portal in the past. I think it brought up, and I think it could be useful for onboarding for board members too.
Exactly.
Cool. If you offer something, okay.
Continuing education with,
and I think also that you already hit on it, but the trainings are really important.
Yeah, they are.
Right? Because it gives you a reason to want to come, right? Everyone loves, at least most people love to learn, I do, on a daily basis, right? And so to be trained on how to best be effective with the community we're serving is huge, I think, you know what I mean? Cause I don't know everything, right?
Yeah, so
And-
spread the word about the convening. I
Yeah.
think the convening is gonna be really, really rad. And a really cool, just public conversation, led by Rocco House.
Yeah, yeah.
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 I've never heard of it.
Oh, well, they came and gave us that presentation in January, I think it was, or February, where they did that housing, pathways to
Oh,
housing, yeah.
Right, okay.
Okay, so I just wanted to flag that we do have 20 minutes left, I believe, and you still have slides.
Yes, a couple
Okay.
things. So just wanted to share a little bit around like staff capacity, because I know the other piece that's been brought up is then working on board recruitment.
Mhm.
So I just want to also share what steps we take to do board recruitment and onboarding, so that you all can start thinking about timelining and planning, knowing that there's a lot of current effort and capacity taken with current activities and board and membership recruitment.
Right.
So with board recruitment and onboarding, what we would do is do a review of the selection process. This is currently a part of the charter review work group. So noting that part of the steps we need to complete is completing the charter so that there's a clear, detailed process for bringing on new board members. We want to do a review of missing representations on the board. So looking at both our membership, what sectors we need to bolster, and on the board, what representation of missing sectors we need to bolster. Review and create both the online and paper application, review matrix. I'm giving you like a lot of the details.
No, this is the full details though.
We then would want to establish an ad hoc selection committee. So that would be a committee who would be in charge of reviewing applications, doing interviews for potential board members, and making the recommendations to the membership. Applications open, we usually do a minimum of 2 weeks. That's the minimum. It can be different timeframe. Reviewing of applications and completing final round interviews typically takes also about 2 weeks. To do that, we would then present the finalists that the selection committee identifies to the COC membership, and the COC membership would do a vote. This has been done at the convening. It doesn't have to be a convening. We can have a special meeting that's just for board membership, which I personally think is a good idea because you can have a little more focused, robust conversations.
Right.
And then we would work on onboarding. So with onboarding, we aim to do that with all new board members at once. The most recent onboarding was a 2-day in-person board session. So we coordinate with all the new board members who are voted on, create onboarding binders that Catherine established when she started, having to update materials. So a lot of the onboarding that was done in partnership with CSH, who is our HUD TA. Since we're no longer able to work with them, it would be COC staff kind of helping do that. And then having a 2-day onboarding session. I do think for the benefit of the full board, it would be great to do the board onboarding with the entire board versus just new members, so that there's a way to begin that peer-to-peer mentorship and like developing those relationships. I think that's a lesson learned from the last time we did onboarding, is that we didn't have the full board together. So really a full like robust process to onboard and get new board members is typically 2.5 to 3 months. So would want to start thinking about when is the date by which you want to see new board members, and kind of plan backward from there to begin planning when do we want to initiate starting the steps for board recruitment. Just as kind of planning piece, as I think you all know, I am a planner and I like a calendar and I like a schedule and I like a deadline.
Yeah, makes it easier to get things done.
Partly too, to throw out very quickly in this framing too, having had conversations with most of you, I've not heard from anyone there's not a desire to bring on new board members. It really is just a question of timing to ensure that we have the capacity to bring on people effectively, efficiently, in a way that works for us. And so I want to be clear that I've never heard anyone say no to bringing on new board members. It's a question of time. Martha, you have your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, Dorsey. I wasn't sure if I misheard you. I thought you said that you hadn't heard from the board interest in bringing new board members on. No, you're saying it was the opposite. Okay. My ears perked. I was like, could I have misheard? Okay.
Everyone that I've spoken to, including myself and Ruby, wants new board members. It's just we want to do it in a way that makes sense, is effective, and doesn't have Kelsey pulling her hair out because
during possible NOFO season as well.
Yeah. And
Ruby, you've got your hand up.
no, go ahead, Dorsey. You can finish your thought.
We've got the charter revision that is going on right now. There's some really great, amazing work that's going there, but they have taken a look at the section that we even updated last year. And so there is some work being done around like what it means to be a board member. And I am a very strong believer in informed consent. And I really believe that when somebody signs the agreement to be a board member, we want to have a document that clearly tells them what they're signing up to do. I would hate to sign someone up and then 2 months later, suddenly we're doing 2 monthly meetings, and that's not a commitment they can make or something like that. That's an exaggeration. No one has suggested 2 monthly meetings. But I just want to throw out that there's a lot of things in motion right now. And it's less a question of do we want to recruit, yes or no? It's when do we want to recruit?
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to kind of build on that thought, because you kind of stole the words out of my brain, was just, what is the charter meant to do? Is it meant to be the governing document of the group as a whole? Is it meant to be the board's governing document? What is a charter? And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is the board's charter. It's what the board operates off of, right? The membership as a whole? Okay, so, but there's specific board, like the roles of what a board member is and does in this charter. It also delegates out the work that's to be done by the KCRHA or the collaborative applicant and the HMIS lead. So this is the governing document of saying imagine we went into high school, second period, you don't get your first page the day you show up.
Right.
And you're just like, so what are we learning this year?
Right.
What am I supposed to, because I know that's how I felt when I joined the board. And that's okay. It happens. We've navigated it, but I don't want to bring anybody into a position like that again, where they're like, well, I just read this whole other document that you mean says is not accurate. Like, I just get concerned about how confusing that would be for somebody to come into the space and not have a definite understanding of what their role is.
Martha, and then Jaja. Sorry.
Thank you. I just want to name, I hold a different perspective on this. I don't want perfection to be the evil of good. And it's a little bit of a, chicken and egg. We need more capacity to get to the point where we can have board members, but then we have more board members, we'd have more capacity to do the work we need to do. I think to support on like committee and work groups, and also just to have more perspectives, more voices contributing and like thought partnership. And so I am sensitive to balancing like capacity of standing up yet another group, right? Like a selection committee. But I also think, the 12 or 13 of us are on the board. If something in the charter is the membership elects to change it, we would adapt, right? As current board members. And there, it would be changes from what was laid out at the time that we joined. And I think, there can be certainly as much as possible, right? Highlighting for folks, charter is meant to be a living document. And so at the time that we're recruiting, this is what it currently says. It's actively under review, but also that should be an annual process. And so that's something a little bit to expect. And we're not anticipating drastic changes, I don't think, to the charter, I don't see charter revisions as particularly as a reason to like delay or not onboard additional voices and perspectives. I do particularly, I think, want to be attentive to capacity. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Martha.
Go ahead.
I wanted to build on that. First I want to ask our distinguished Kelsey about when the NOFO process is, because I think it's really important not to put too much on somebody. You know what I mean? And so I know that's a lot of work. So what's the months for the NOFO? Mine's a two-part.
I believe
Usually.
like for this year, it will likely be July through the end of August.
Okay.
There are a lot of unknowns. HUD could change things, so it could
Right.
potentially be July through September. I don't know. I am moving and planning with the assumption that it will likely be a heavy July, August. Maybe September. I hope not, because I have a vacation planned in September, but we'll see. But that's my thinking. So based on just COC staff capacity, I would say that as COC staff, our ability to support board recruitment and onboarding would not be until October.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that's the absolute earliest that COC staff would have the capacity to get these pieces going and started.
So then my second part of my thing was thinking about that, then you think you go backwards from December to October, that's a 3-month period, you know what I mean? So you would start that recruitment. I also agree with what Martha says, we need the capacity, right? But we can't have the capacity because we are a collective, right?
Yeah.
So we need the admin, right?
Exactly.
To help us out, right?
Yeah.
And so we want to work together for a common purpose, right? And still get the work done. That's what I
Sorry, I just want to flag, we've got 10 minutes left. You've got your, so we've got a hand up from Ruby. We've got one up for Victor. I do want to just flag that Victor did say that the charter would be completed at the end of September, which aligns with the timeline that was just mentioned. Ruby, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're good. I was gonna say the same thing. I was also gonna just quickly shout out that, like the idea that having the membership, you can still participate and have a seat at the table, and we can get to know like, the system, like how it's all going, right? So like until October, as we're strengthening our membership, because like I said, we're not talking about not doing this. We definitely need board members. We definitely need to recruit them. It's just about what are we doing until we can actually do it, right? Because I think that's the question is, like you said, there's roles that KCRHA plays that we can't do. We don't have the ability to do. And I've been learning that the hard way. And so, you know, as much as I believe all of these things are true, it's just a matter of when. And so I think that as we're strengthening our membership and pulling in new partnerships, we're going to see an influx in participation at our committees and work groups, where I think a lot of the work is getting done. And that's what, I mean, my desire is that, like, I just want to see particularly one person that I can think of off the top of my head on the convening work group, because they have great ideas, you know? And that's all, because like I said, October sounds great. Or September. I thought we were going to have it finished and voted on by November.
November is the convening.
Yeah.
The aim for the convening.
To have the charter. And you're right, Martha, it is a living document. And so I kind of feel like silly that I said all that. But
don't feel silly. There's no silly question.
The current board gets to vote on the charter. Anyone being recruited between now and the charter may not get to vote on it. That would be the potential counter there. You have your hand up.
No, thank you. I just want to clarify, even though Kelsey had reiterated it, that the charter revision work group, what I said earlier, it's will finish the proposed recommendation that were presented to the board in October and then be voted on by the membership in November. So essentially, it will be completed in November, not September, right? So I hope I was very clear. I thought I was very clear when I shared that. And then beyond that, I really concur with what Martha has shared, that I don't see why we should let the charter be something that become a deterrent from recruiting new members, because it's something that need to be reviewed annually anyway. So I do not understand the collision between both, because it's something that happen at least annually. And beyond that, now that we heard about the capacity, I know that at this last slide, we're also thinking about a timeline. Then a lot is also on contingency on what KCIHA can provide, right? So it sounds like it's going to be October. If that is a timeline, we also heard that it's going to take about 2 to 3 months to complete. I kind of like that, because then whoever get voted on start in the fresh year in January 2026. So there's also a fresh beginning.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm hearing a strong consensus from everyone. Like we all have different points and we can go over the points, but everyone's saying October, and I've not heard anyone propose anything outside of October. And so
I will say October's the earliest based on our COC current work plan. Please let me review those to be like, yes, what I've said is actually quite feasible. That's the earliest we can, that COC staff have the capacity to do from what I know regarding no phone connected things.
Is there anything that we can do that is within our parameters or scopes to help people prepare for this portion? So,
some things that I think would be really helpful are from those who did onboarding last year, what were things that were missing? So what would be helpful within that? And
parliamentary and training.
yeah, so I think just getting from you all, what will you want to see prepared for like really strong COC board member and COC member onboarding?
Yes.
So I think those are things that we can work on bolstering between now and whenever we want to start the kind of recruitment process, so that we can get pieces put together.
Can I just say that you mentioned that Catherine had a template. I think that is something we could do in the waiting.
Yeah, and like
everyone can get to their networks with that template. And
just start. Yeah, and I think that's
and
really
start
good.
recruiting. We can recruit.
We can recruit
in our networks, right? And the more the merrier.
That's
no.
yeah. No, I
saying, and that's go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. We're just like battling with each other's ideas. We're like, yes, I love it.
Let's try and land a plane here. Amy, you've got your hand up. We've got 5 minutes left, but I'm going to be looking for a motion here in a second. Amy.
I'll just make it really quick. I think that another good thing would be, with everybody's agreement and comfort, to maybe have a commitment on the board that if we are going to be working on recruitment, that we all say, okay, this month after this board meeting, let's all try and make one contact and bring it to the table next time, and maybe set some action items or goals. I think that would be beneficial as well.
I think that's great.
I think that's great. I do just want to flag, we need membership first. So like,
and that's for either dorsal. Indeed. And so I think I need a better explanation again of membership and the things we talked about today. I think Kelsey and the team are going to be able to recap kind of what we went through, and then having action items taken away from this meeting today on kind of the things that we've talked about and putting those kind of sorted out. I do better with kind of checklists and the check and balance of things. So that's what works well for me. People may have other things. And I'll be quiet so Elizabeth can chime in. Thank you.
Hi, we have a convening coming up really quickly. Is it possible to have a brief description of what it means to be a member present it at the convening and ask the people who are at the convening to also help recruit.
I love it.
What we can provide is a handout, so we can include that as a handout.
Yeah, I just don't think there's a ton of time or flexibility on the actual agenda for conversations. to be
Right,
built
right.
on.
Is there time
Sorry.
for the ask?
She said that you can put the one pager in there and there could be the ask on the paper.
Yeah, we can, but it can be. We can work
It
that
can
out.
be-
Work.
Yeah.
It can be part of the introduction when we're welcoming
Yeah.
people.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it can be an announcement as well.
We can do that. Yeah, we could do that. We could do that.
We've got 3 minutes left,
Okay.
and what I've heard from the board is that we want to recruit as quickly as possible. Like, I'm hearing that. October is the quickest possible time with some caveats.
Board recruitment.
Yeah, membership recruitment is right now, today.
Right now, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, out and call somebody tonight.
Right. No, really, that's a great idea. Leave excited to share our work, right?
Going back to my evangelical days. So I don't know if we want to make a formal motion. I've heard consensus, but I would like for us to formally, as a board, like, clearly say that we are all on board, that an October timeline to begin recruitment is what we want. And
If the
somebody-
caveat that could change. Oh, can I make a motion? I make a motion that we start to, or that we have this timeline set in stone to begin working on board recruitment in October, with the caveat that the NOFO could adjust that.
Right, and I want to
Is that
second
fair?
that. Yeah, I want to second that because that's what it sounds like is what capacity is, right? And we want to be mindful and vote,
And a third from Christina.
Yeah.
We got
Can I make a friendly amendment that we start recruiting for membership now?
Oh, no,
No,
yeah,
it's already-
membership is now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
It's already-
membership is right when you walk out the door or turn off your computer or
As if we
whatever
said.
you want to do.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? But I think if we build the membership, you're gonna find the
The
board.
board, exactly, yeah.
absolutely.
So, yes, we'll take your friendly amendment, is what I meant to say.
Yeah, I second that for me a minute.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, and a friendly amendment. I think this is consensus enough. We'll just do a voice vote. Do you want to call for the vote, Kelsey, since you were doing it before?
Happy to. For the motion to begin the work towards recruitment for board members in October with the caveat regarding staff capacity. All those in favor, please come off mute and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, please come off mute and say no.
Any abstentions?
Yep, any abstentions?
I didn't hear everybody.
Okay, based on the voice vote, the yays have it. So we will aim to begin focus on board recruitment come October.
Yep.
Thank you.
And membership is now.
Yes, and as your friendly neighborhood COC staff, we will also be really proactive in keeping you attuned to capacity as we go along.
No more vacations, Catherine. I'm just kidding.
She's gonna come back refreshed and ready to go.
I know, excited to see her.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Right.
do we have any really fast, there's one thing I wanted to say before we end today, and that's the governing board meeting is being moved to Monday, the 16th from 10 a.m. to 12. This is going to be the one where me and Dorsal are going to be presenting on another portion of the COC work that we do. We're talking about the prioritization and how we rate and rank, not prioritization, I'm sorry, the priority list and how we rate and rank our organizations to get funding. And so it's going to be fun and you better be there.
It's June 16th,
June 16th, Monday, which is an irregular day for
10
them,
to 12.
10 to 12. That's the 16th, 2 weeks.
I'm excited, and I'm excited about the convening,
On
with
the
us, with the caveat of building the membership there with that announcement.
Heck yeah.
Because I know if we build it, they will come, no.
We'll give them a piece of gum. Is that good incentive? Okay, great. So I think
Let's start.
that's it, right?
Thank you all.
I move that, we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Okay, Elizabeth, second.
Motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you all for giving us an extra 32 minutes of your life today.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Good work today. I think we got a lot done.
Yeah. Good job.
Right.
Thank you guys for supporting me, and,